Libby, I want to talk to you as we get ready for that SpaceX thing, and I'm going to jump in a second. I think it's going to happen. But the Tesla numbers, I've read every Tesla earnings press release there ever was, and this one was confusing, and the market was very confused by it when it first came out.
It was a little bit confusing. In addition to it being a late release, Elon Musk had said he wanted to delay the earnings release, so in order for him to focus solely on SpaceX during the 6 o'clock hour. So here we are with the earnings release. It hit later than everyone was expecting. For the most part, the numbers seem to be in line. Of course, that headline number really threw everybody off, that adjusted loss per share of 13 cents. Analysts had been predicting a profit for the quarter, an adjusted profit for the quarter, so there was some confusion and maybe a little bit of shock, and I think that's what's sending the shares down post-market.
Well, let's get to that in a second. That launch is just a few seconds away, so I want to jump down to Cape Canaveral if I can and see what's going on there. That is a rocket ship surrounded by a bunch of things that are going to measure that rocket ship.
1, 0, and liftoff. The Falcon takes flight, propelling the Deep Space Climate Observatory on a million-mile journey to protect our planet Earth.
GC OSM moved to section 10.65. HPU is active.
Beautiful asset.
So we're watching the Falcon 9 spacecraft take off from the launch center in Cape Canaveral that SpaceX has leased for this launch. This launch has had a number of delays, as these launches often do, whether it's SpaceX or NASA or anyone else. But this will release a satellite, and maybe the biggest moment for this isn't going to be the takeoff even, but it's going to be the attempt at a landing on a floating barge, which Elon Musk, in his typical flair for the dramatic, is calling a automated drone floating at sea. It's a barge. And so they're going to try to land this thing on a barge. The first stage of this rocket, as it separates, will then fall back to Earth, and they're going to try to control it and land it on that barge. Last one was what he called a hard landing. You and I might call it crash. But it looks like that Falcon 9 spacecraft is well on its way. So, Eric, what do you make of this? As we see, Eric Roston, as we see this SpaceX ship up there, what's important about this particular SpaceX launch?
What's really interesting about this is we're really watching a part of history. I would expect that this is the last satellite being launched by the Clinton administration. 17 years ago, the Vice President Al Gore had the core of the idea that became this satellite, which will do three things. It will monitor the sun for potential magnetic outbursts that could disable technology here on the ground on Earth. It's going to measure the energy balance of the Earth itself. How much energy comes in, how much energy goes out. We have a little problem these days where there's not as much energy coming out as is going in, and we call that global warming. And finally, it's going to take atmospheric and cloud measurements, and most interestingly at all, later this year, it's going to start streaming back live video of the Earth spinning so we can all watch ourselves twirl.
It's a GoPro on a satellite. Your tax dollar's hard at work. It is interesting, however, that this satellite on there that Al Gore conceived in the middle of the night was the beginning of the things that led to his understanding and interest in the issue of global warming.
That's true. There's an Elon Musk element here too that goes back even farther than this planned launch. More than 10 years ago, this satellite was supposed to launch on the Space Shuttle Columbia, the very same mission, when it tragically disintegrated coming back down to Earth. After that, NASA threw open a request for ideas how to get this satellite into space. They talked to Europe, they talked to Japan, it didn't work out. Elon Musk came forward and said he'd like to help out, but at that point his SpaceX was only about a year old and they didn't even have the rockets ready to go yet.
And I misspoke, apparently. This is not the rocket that they're going to test the next second stage soft landing on the autonomous drone / barge. That'll be a later SpaceX flight. I do want to return to this issue of Tesla, because stock's now off about 5%, and Libby McGowan is still with us in New York. Libby, the big number that everyone was looking for is the number that Tesla usually puts in the first or second sentence of their press release, and it's how many cars they sold. And everyone was looking for a number of 11,127 or so, let's call 11,200, because that's what the company said that they would do. And instead of put the number of cars that they sold at 11,200 at the top, They put a number of something like 11,000 something else, 11,800 something, but it was a number of cars they produced. And for the first time ever, they put a number of how many they actually sold, and guess what? That number was a big miss. It was only 9,834, a lot less than the company had guided towards, and a disappointment indeed when they were looking for a 45% sequential increase, and it was only about 25%.
Exactly. That was certainly a much lower number than anticipated. Definitely. Analysts had to some extent expected that because of the delays launching the P85D. There was a lot of delays around that. They actually caught a software bug right before the launch and decided to delay it. And between that and some weather delays that they cited and customers going on vacation, they said they couldn't hit that delivery target of that 11,200 number. But they did say that 1,400 cars were pulled into the first quarter. So if you add up that 9,800 on the 1,400, you're right around their guidance. So they didn't execute, and Elon Musk is known for executing on these targets that he sets, which is why Wall Street likes him. And he, but the deliveries
let me
are
just say that I'll put in the phrase of a question, but the excuses were thick and heavy in this release. Libby, have you ever seen a company let me read the excuses, this amazing sentence in the letter to shareholders. While we were able to recover the lost production by the end of the quarter, delivering those cars was physically impossible due to the combination of customers being on vacation, severe winter weather, and shipping problems with actual ships. Have you ever seen anything like that, Libby?
I will say
company?
The customers being on vacation was a first. Absolutely. Certainly, the severe winter weather sounded almost like last year when people really were having these weather issues. And so that was definitely unexpected and very not like Tesla to not, one, hit those targets, and to two, and frankly, had they just said it was because of that delay, because of that, the 85D that we launched in December, maybe people wouldn't have been so jarred by it. But they also did cite the stronger dollar, which is something that everyone has their eye on for American manufacturers right now. So that was certainly interesting, and I'm sure Elon Musk will be getting some comments about it, some questions about it on the call in a couple hours.
So outside of being surprised by the existence of vacations around the holidays, Eric, let me ask you, because I know you know SpaceX even better than you know Tesla, but does Elon Musk at Tesla not know about winter weather, but Elon Musk at SpaceX does know about winter weather? I mean, weather is pretty important in the satellite business, too, right?
I think maybe he should have sent up a weather satellite. What they sent up is a space weather satellite, which is going to look at the sun, not a Earth weather satellite, which would help with his shipping.